Hey, okay, so I know you've heard about the actors and writer strikes, but you and I, as viewers, we haven't had to feel the strikes yet. That is all about to change big time. Today on the podcast, how the Hollywood strikes will change what's on your TV this fall. I'm Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This is Commotion. Listen, so if you're sitting there and you're thinking, I'd heard so much about these strikes, but there's still a lot of things to watch on my TV. You're right. You're absolutely right about that. But that's because what we're watching now was made mostly before the strikes began. This month, we as viewers will start to feel the sting of the strikes because as of today, it's the fall season. It's usually when networks begin to debut new shows or a new season of your favorite show would begin. But if you actually look at the fall schedule now, and you will in fact notice the impact of the strike. So what has changed, and what do we actually have to look forward to with this kind of, bleak environment? I've got three TV experts here to talk about it. Kathryn VanArendonk, Nina Metz, and Emily Longeretta are all here with me in this group chat. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show.
Hey.
Hi.
I'm excited.
I'm very excited.
This is going to be a good time. I love talking about TV, and I love talking about TV with people who love talking about TV. Okay, so let's start with you, Nina. When you look at this fall TV schedule, what's the thing that's missing? What shows will definitely not be returning to the screens, even though they normally would?
It's like a whole landscape of desperado because none of the network TV, like in recent years, has become, in my opinion, a wasteland of cop shows. But people love them. So you have all those like Dick Wolf shows, all the Law and Orders. You have, I'm here in Chicago. We have the Chicago Med, Chicago Fire, Chicago PD.
Yeah.
You have Blue Bloods. You have all these, cop shows that people are very loyal to. No new episodes will be coming back.
Right.
And that's sort of been these shows have been keeping network TV alive for the time being. So no more sort of scripted cop shows. And the handful of sitcoms that are sort of these bright spots like Ghosts and Abbott Elementary, no new episodes of those either. Although Abbott Elementary will be airing in reruns on ABC, but it's it's kind of dismal. It's going to be a lot of reality TV, a lot of reruns. CBS is going to be airing Yellowstone.
Yes, which is a hit as a show, right?
Yeah, but I mean, my sense is that like if you're an American or if you're an English language TV appreciator and you meant to watch Yellowstone, you probably already watched Yellowstone.
Yeah, there's not a lot of new audiences that are like, hey, what's this show about 5 seasons into Yellowstone? That makes a lot of sense. Kathryn, fine. So when we look at this landscape and it sounds like all the cops and the med shows and the fire, I'm sorry, Chicago, it sounds like all the essential services are not going to be available.
Over here.
All kinds of chaos breaking loose in Chicago. But when you look at this the schedule, what sort of BandAid solutions are the networks using to weather the strikes?
Right. So Nina was mentioning unscripted is the big savior for them at this point, because those are, although they are shows that are produced with union labor, it is not WGA and SAG labor. So they are still able to create and film a lot of unscripted. Your bachelors will still be there, your survivors, your Big Brothers, all of that kind of stuff. They will also continue to roll out more iterations of them. They had been planning to do a Golden Bachelor already, but that's all those kinds of stopgap measures you're going to see everywhere. One of the other ones that I think is sort of interesting, and Nina alluded to this as well, is because these are these huge parent companies that have relationships with all of their little subdivisions, CBS can say well, hey, Yellowstone, we can make a deal and get that for pretty cheap to have it also be on regular network television. Yeah. They're going to be doing the same thing for Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which I think is actually a much bigger and better deal for Star Trek than it is for Yellowstone.
Yeah.
And I was fascinated to see that Ghosts, which is a really solid sitcom, I think they're going to be airing the UK version as well, which I don't know if
that's right.
I don't know if American audiences are going to be into, because it's a kind of different vibe, but this is testament to how desperate things are getting over there for scripted content.
And I think that's, just to kind of echo on that, I think that that's such a good example of how these networks are being forced to get creative into what they can air. And the acquisitions, I mean, we're seeing them at the CW too, as they're going through so many changes. I mean, they're acquiring a ton of shows from Canada that are now going to air, that are CTV shows that already fully aired, that are going to air in their prime slots because they don't have any new shows.
Yeah, there's a number of people that I know who work in TV here in Canada have been like, these shows wouldn't have had a chance to be competitive given the shows that occupied the schedule, like especially during like the fall sort of primetime lineup. But now, in the absence of, I don't know, literally everything, it sounds like, hey, this is a golden sort of opportunity. And maybe it could be a golden opportunity for those shows to leave an impression with audiences that, you know, otherwise would not be familiar with them. I do want to play a clip from a show that we thought we were going to get this fall, but we are not getting.
You think I want to work with you? Take a look in the mirror. No one can stand you.
I'm just going to do this one thing. Work together to close this case. And that's it for the two of us.
Yes, it is.
I'm so mad. I'm so mad that we're not getting that. That is a clip from the highly anticipated 4th season of True Detective starring Jodie Foster. It was supposed to come out this year. Then HBO pushed the release back to January 2024. They're hoping the strikes are going to be over so that the actors can actually, you know, go on, I don't know, Jimmy Kimmel and like promote these shows. But Emily, like, what do you make of that strategy? Like, wouldn't it make sense to drop it now when we're all like, we're just desperate for high quality television? Give us something. We would all talk about it, wouldn't we?
I say yes and no, but let's be honest. When True Detective returns and when we see Jodie Foster back on our screens, we're going to talk about it if it airs at 2 a.m. It doesn't matter. We're all going to be talking about it.
Yeah.
So I don't think that and at that same thing, I don't think that they need the promotion either. Like yes, it will be great to see her doing promotion and see people talking about it at you know, doing a big premiere, a big event, which they can't do right now because of the strikes. But I don't think it's really going to matter one way or the other for a big show. I think for a smaller show, the promotion is more important. But for a show like that, that's something that no matter what, we will be talking about it. I'm sure the three of us will be writing about it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure.
Nina, what do you make of that? Like the idea that
also, it's like, what do we think of that strategy? They have no other option. Like, let's talk turkey, right? So we all hope, you know, that the studios are able to sort of negotiate a contract that ends the strike. But the reality is streaming has sort of been created the illusion of we still have all this content. Yeah. But they haven't been, you know, there's been a work stoppage for almost 6 months now. There's going to come a point where, you know, everything slows to a trickle and they have no new shows. So I think when they're punting stuff to 2024, they're trying to have something to premiere. They need to have a show. They can't have nothing. No, truly.
Yeah.
That's a real possibility.
Like, it's not about what's ready now. It's about being like, okay, nothing's going to be ready in 4 months or so. So we got to have something then.
Yeah. It's a strike strategy also, because part of what the message from the AMPTP has been this whole time is like, we can withstand you for as long as we need. We've got so much content in the bank. We do not need to cave to any of your demands because we can hold out forever. We can certainly hold out for a lot longer than you poor writers who desperately need money, and will cave eventually. But what these schedule updates suggests is that they are quietly saying, like, let's just kick that one till later. Do we actually have things 4 months from now? Who knows?
Yeah. Well, let's get into that though, because like when you look at the fall calendar, yes, it obviously seems like yes, the strikes are going to be affecting traditional TV quite directly, but that's because like the production times there are shorter, right? But when you look at streaming, theoretically, Kathryn, aren't streaming services like Netflix or Disney Plus, aren't they theoretically in a better position to weather the storm?
Yes. So they absolutely have a bigger back catalog of things that they can stretch out for a much longer. They have stuff that has been sort of in the pocket for a long time. They can sort of delay the release schedule, so you're not going to get the density that you might have once gotten from them. But I think, you know, the three of us certainly know, I think a lot of TV viewers understand that we were in this peak TV place before anyhow, and the density was actually both unsustainable and damaging the whole industry in a lot of ways. And so a reduced density is not necessarily a bad thing in that regard.
Yeah.
And it was going to happen anyway.
It was 100% going to happen anyway. We were
going
headed
to make fewer shows. And this is just an external. It's a great excuse because the studios get to blame the strike. But they were going to be doing fewer shows anyway. It's unsustainable. There's not the money. There's not the audience for it. So we were going to see that shrinking in the lineup to begin with. But the problem is, like, they're gonna run out of shows if they don't start making shows again, right?
Well, and people they want their shows to come back, right?
Yeah.
People are going to be like, "Where's season 2 of Wednesday?" At some point, people are going to, and
that's me. I already am like that, 100%. Right. Yes,
these are valuable properties for them.
Yeah.
They want to be able to give people the things that we all have that. Understanding of what happens when there's a big show and then you get the second season faster than you thought they were going to. And it's because they're trying to give the people the thing that they want while it works. Mm-hmm. And the longer it gets delayed, the more of that audience is going to be like, oh yeah, I liked that a while ago, but I don't know now.
So I want to come back to that density question in a moment, because last year it was like a preposterous number of shows debuted. No one watched even like, I don't know, a tenth of them. Like, and that's definitely a conversation to get into. But Emily, can I just ask you, like, strike or no strike, does the fall TV session really mean anything anymore? Because streamers can just drop, a series at any point in the schedule.
I do think it still means something. I think it is different than it used to be because there's a lot less of appointment viewing than there used to be. And I think it used to be, people coming home on Friday nights or on Thursday nights and watching Friends or watching, appointment viewing. But I think that just because they can drop them at any time, we still see a really high volume of shows in non-strike time dropping in the fall, because that there is still that tradition. I think that's still an important thing. And if for people who cover award season, that's still an important time to drop shows if you want your shows to be eligible for big awards. So whether or not awards are going to matter in 2 years or whether or not they matter now, it really is still kind of that the prime time to drop new shows. That said, like we said before, no matter what time some of these streamers drop these shows, if Wednesday drops in the middle of the year or drops on Christmas Day, we've seen that succeed. So sometimes people like to do that.
Yes.
For TV writers, please don't do that anymore.
Please stop.
But
Please stop.
We like our holidays. But you know what? That also just proves, like, if something drops at 3 a.m., it doesn't matter what time of year it is. We're going to talk about it.
It's funny, though. I was thinking about this.
Yeah.
I do think there was a different excitement that existed previous to the last decade of, like, everyone, like, back to school,
and back to new shows. Yes.
Season did have the sense of anticipation because it was twofold. One hand, so right now with streaming, your favorite shows, it could be 18 months between seasons, and that's if it gets renewed, right? So you're waiting sort of forever, and there's no like, well, it premiered in April, so when it comes back, it'll come back in April. You have no idea when it's going to come back. It's sort of this chaos. So you're just sort of waiting, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, the second season's here. Whereas the fall TV structure, or the fall to spring TV schedule, created an external structure of, you knew that my favorite show that ended in May is going to come back in September. I'm ready to watch those, and there are new shows, and they're starring actors I know, and whoa, that's an interesting premise, and I'm curious to watch it. And they were all premiering really within a couple of weeks of each other. There was a lot of energy. I mean, even with streaming, they're not necessarily premiering within a few weeks of each other. It's all spread out. If you're a fan of Only Murders in the Building, well, that premiered a whole bunch of weeks ago. Like, it's not a sense of like all this stuff is happening together at one time. So I do think that takes away some of the excitement I used to feel, at least, about the fall season. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, that's 100%.
Yeah, when I think about the anticipation of the fall schedule, I think about shows that ended in like cliffhangers, right? Like, you could do that. You could end a show in a cliffhanger in May and be like, now you just got to wait and find out what happens to Buffy, and it's going to be about 3 months or so. And then, when September rolls around, then you can finally find out, oh, like she did die, and then now she's being brought back to life. And I go like, what a twist. I didn't see any of this coming. My name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. You're listening to a show called Commotion, and I'm speaking with TV critics Nina Metz, Kathryn VanArendonk, and Emily Longeretta. We're talking about this upcoming fall TV season because it is being all kinds of affected by the labor strikes in Hollywood. Listen, we've talked about the shows that we're not going to be seeing due to the strikes. There are still a number of shows that wrap production before the stoppage that we will end up seeing this fall. Kathryn, you wrote a piece for Vulture where you talked about this trend that you noticed in terms of the upcoming TV schedule. A lot of historical dramas, a lot of shows based on the past. How does that trend relate for you in terms of like how you think about this current labor situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think this was going to happen even without the strikes coming. It's the result of a couple different things. For one, shows like The Crown have been very successful even before that, Mad Men. And so there has been this move toward the idea of treating historical periods on TV as like an aesthetic that you can just kind of plug onto a TV show. And so it looks like a specific thing and it feels like a specific thing. And if you didn't really write the characters that well, like, does it matter as much? Probably not. But look at the costumes, such beautiful gowns. So I think that was coming anyhow. But I also think that there is an element of streaming and the streaming production schedule that has kind of broken TV's ability to write shows about the current moment. You know, Nina was talking about this thing where your show would go off the air in the spring and then it would come back in the fall. And when you're working on a production schedule that's that tight, what happens is you can write a show about the world because it's probably going to be roughly the same in 3 months, or at least close enough that people are going to understand it. But streaming now means you're writing a show. You have no idea when it's going to premiere. Perhaps it will be next year. Perhaps it will be 4 years from now. Perhaps we will be in a completely different climate crisis / presidential election cycle / who knows what. And people are going to look at it and think like, well, that feels like 4 years ago because it was written 4 years ago. Yeah. And so instead, I think there has been this movement toward what feels more like trying to be evergreen content. So you set your show in the 60s and you say, sure, it's like about the politics of now, but you don't have to actually make a specific strike at any specific targets because it's this very general, like, well, gender, you know, it's always been rough or whatever. And it has been really fascinating to see that like this huge number of shows this year that are suddenly like, sure, it's about politics, but it's set in the 60s or whatever it is. Yeah.
Does that make TV feel in a way like less relevant to you? Like, because like obviously the quality of writing can make it a bit more immediate, but
100%.
You kind of go like, I'm not really in for this, you know?
Yeah. So there's a range, right? Good TV is good TV. And when these shows work and when they're done really well, you appreciate them. They can absolutely still have that like relevant thing. But it does feel also like for some of them a cop out because instead of trying to wrestle with something that is actually going to be relevant to people's lives, you're just sliding backwards. It's part of why I think unscripted TV is so popular because it's about people who live in the world right now, and which scripted TV has seeded. Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into some personal picks that you guys have. I'm going to play a clip from one new show that some of you are really excited about.
Nella, there's someone you have to meet. This is Hazel May McCall, my new assistant. Really? Hi.
Nina, tell us about The Other Black Girl.
The Other Black Girl is adapted from a novel of the same name. It's set in the world of publishing. It is about a young Black woman who is an editorial assistant. She is the only Black person in the office. And then one day, another Black woman is hired. She's the other Black girl of the title. And it's sort of like she's thrilled and excited. And it's sort of like this, nod of recognition. And then it's like, is she friend or foe? It's sort of unclear. And there's sort of this magical realism element that's sort of folded into it. There's sort of some sinister things happening in the office, in addition to the sinister things like microaggressions, office politics, all of that kind of stuff. So it's like a workplace drama with a satirical edge to it. The performances are really interesting. I mean, I have some critiques of the show. I think the magical realism element isn't fully thought through and doesn't always make sense, but you're not seeing very many shows tackle these sort of topics. And I think it's worth checking out. It's worth seeing. It's on Hulu. What do you guys think so far?
I absolutely loved it. I
was
haven't gotten through all of it
it's
yet.
one of your picks, right?
Yeah, it was one of my picks for sure. I haven't gotten fully through it. I almost am saving it because I feel like when I really like a new show, I'm like, I don't know if there's how many other new shows I'm going to like. But yeah, I think it took on an angle of, like you said, microaggressions and racism in the workplace and things that in a different way, in a fresh way that we haven't seen, which I was really impressed with. From someone who's read the book, I was very, very impressed with the adaptation from the book to the screen, which is usually not the case with me because I'm very picky about it. But yeah, I think it's going to be a big hit. I think it's something people are really going to talk about, and the acting, the stars in it are very, very good.
Emily, the other show that is one of your picks is this one.
I'm all over this network. I need to have a say in the future of this place.
What you are asking is unprecedented.
I am unprecedented.
Emily, you are braver than anyone I know. You have chosen a clip from season 3 of The Morning Show, which comes back to Apple Plus September 13th. Dude, this is a show that people love or hate. What's up with you? What's your vibe on The Morning Show?
I love to hate it. I think that's what it is. I don't think I'm sitting here saying like it's the greatest show of the year, because it's not. But it is a show that makes me laugh / smile, like get emotional every episode. Like I'm excited to see what they're doing because they can go completely off the rails, and trust me, they do this season. But I'm still going to continue to watch it. Also, I love Jennifer Aniston, so I'll watch anything she does. I'm just kidding. That's my disclaimer.
There's really there's no better measure for me of a show, good or bad, is how often I feel like I need to slack my coworkers about it. And
exactly.
Morning Show season 3 is like way up there on the like, I cannot believe.
The same.
Kathryn, what else?
I don't know. I've watched the first episode, and I just don't know if I can keep going with the rest of the season. I don't think it's a spoiler to say it's not even like part of the storyline, but Reese Witherspoon plays she's the nighttime news anchor, and she gets an award for bravely being the one reporter reporting inside the Capitol on January 6th. And it's just so absurd.
Weren't you waiting?
I
have no further questions. I'm sold. Like, that's how you sell me on a show. I don't think that was what you were trying to do, but I'm in. I'm completely in on this.
You get it.
Like, yeah.
The most banal observations about our current media world and TV world imaginable. It's so it's funny, Kathryn, you're talking about, set shows in the now, comment on what's happening on the now. And The Morning Show feels like it's set 5 years ago. The network goes into streaming late, and now there's like a billionaire who's going to buy it. Just none of it feels relevant to actually what's happening in television news.
No. Oh, completely not.
No.
This is the best and most chaotic note to leave it on, but I got to leave it here. I really appreciate all of you guys coming on. Thank you so much for your time and your guidance through this chaotic TV landscape. Kathryn VanArendonk, Nina Metz, Emily Longeretta, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Of course. Kathryn VanArendonk is a TV critic for New York Magazine's Vulture site. She was in New Jersey. Nina Metz is a columnist for the Chicago Tribune. And Emily Longeretta is a senior TV features editor at Variety in L.A.
Wasting away again in Margaritaville, searching for my lost sugar salt.
That's a little Margaritaville. You might have heard over the weekend that Jimmy Buffett died. He was 76 years old. I was thinking about Jimmy Buffett yesterday and the way we think about Jimmy Buffett, because on the one hand, there's this long-running line of critics that sneer at the kind of music that Jimmy made. His music was kind of the definition of easy listening, right? He was associated with making music you listen to on an island. The song titles, Cheeseburger in Paradise. He wrote a song called It's 5 O'Clock Somewhere with Alan Jackson. But on the other hand, Jimmy Buffett brought a lot of people a lot of joy. This is a guy who sold more than 20 million albums. And I was thinking about this, as I was thinking about this, news came out that Steve Harwell, the lead singer of Smash Mouth, died on Monday. He was 56. You know Smash Mouth. You know All Star. You know their cover of I'm a Believer. But again, not a critically celebrated band. But if you want to unite a room of millennials, you just try. Just try pressing play on All Star and see what happens. Steve Harwell and Jimmy Buffett didn't have a lot in common musically, But I think they both made music that brought people together. And I think sometimes that above the reviews and the accolades and everything else, that's the thing that makes music endure. So we're going to go out on some Smash Mouth. This is Walking on the Sun. See you tomorrow.
Joke, I'd like to buy the world a token, teach the world to sing in perfect harmony, and teach the world to snuff the fires and the liars. Hey, I know it's just a song, but it's fast for the rest of